بسم الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Before we begin, brothers, something very important I wanted to mention to you, and that is that we thank you tremendously for supporting us and coming to this seminar to listen to Sheikh Abdul Rahman Umaysan. We really appreciate it. So, Allah Ta'ala reward you with good and put it on your scale of good deeds on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Barakallahu feekum. So we're going to continue and finish this. This booklet written by a Sheikh Jamal al-Harithi, and it's called Risalatan lil Azwaj Faqat, a letter only for the husbands. And we mentioned yesterday the 10 types of husbands that cause havoc in a marriage, and now we're going to mention the last 10. We're going to mention the last 10. فَأَقُلْ وَبِاللَّهِ تَوْفِيقٍ. The Shaykh, may Allah Ta'ala preserve him, he mentioned this is man number 11. This is the stingy man, the miser man, the miser husband. He says this is the man who is stingy and miserly, so he does not spend upon his family. The one who Allah Ta'ala has increased his provision, but he is deficient and stingy in spending upon his wife. He said, and we say being stingy is a character trait that Allah Ta'ala has criticized. When he said, وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And whoever has been saved from the stinginess of himself, of his soul, then they are those who are successful. He said, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, radiallahu anhu, he used to make tawaf around the Kaaba, and he used to make this dua, Rabbi qinni shuhha nafsi. Oh my Lord, save me from the stinginess of my soul. Oh my Lord, save me from the stinginess of my soul. And he was asking about this, like, why are you making this particular dua? And he said, whoever has been saved from the stinginess of his soul, then he has been saved from being miserly and from being oppressive and from breaking the relations. He says, and then he mentions the statement of Allah Ta'ala, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ. And they ask you, O Muhammad, and what shall we spend? Say, that which you spend from good, it is for the parents and for the relatives. He says, and who is closer to you as far as your relatives than your parents, your children, and your wives? Meaning you should spend upon your wives. And also, Ya Akhwan, he mentions the benefit from spending upon your wives. The narration that the Messenger of Allah salam, he said, even the morsel of food that the man puts in the fiyya imra'ati, that he puts in the mouth of his wife, hiya lahu sadaqah. It is a sadaqah for him. It is a charity. Even the food that the man puts in his wife's mouth, it is a charity for him. The sadaqah for the man. And then he mentions the hadith which is collected in Muslim, and other than that, afdal dinar, that the best money that the man spends is the money that he spends upon his family. And the money that a man spends to have a riding beast in the path of Allah, and the money that the man spends for his companions to go in the path of Allah. He says, Abu Qulaba, he said, look at how he began with the money that the man spends upon his family. And he only mentioned this first because this is the best money that the person can spend. Man number 12. So man number 11 was who? The stingy brother. Man number 12, he said, الذي يأتي أهله كالبهيمة يغشها من غير مقدمات للجماعة. He says, the 12th man is the man who goes to his family like an animal, and he does not do any foreplay. The man who goes to his family like a beast, an animal, and he just lays on top of her without any foreplay. He says, Al-Husayn ibn Ali, radiyallahu anhu, he says, it is from being coarse and dry and rough that a man is intimate with his wife and he does not play with her before intimacy. And Ibn Qayyim, he said in Azad, he said, from that which is befitting to do is to have foreplay before intercourse. He said, so the man should play with his wife, he should kiss his wife, he should be gentle and loving with her. He said, and the man should make his wife feel like she is the most beautiful woman in the world. The man should make his wife feel like she is the most beautiful woman in the world. He says, وَأَنَّكَ لَا تُرِيدُ سَوَاهَا. And you should make your wife believe that you don't want any woman other than her. You don't want anyone else. Naam, and you don't desire anyone other than her. He says, and this will bring about a tremendous amount of love. He said, so the man does not go straight to his wife and try to be intimate. He said, but rather the man begins by playing with his wife, making his wife laugh, joking with his wife, making her at ease. This is what the man should begin with. He said, and if he does this, this will bring about a great deal of love. And this is a side point, Ya Akhwan, that we want to mention about this issue, is if the scholars, they mention, Ya Akhwan, that if a man were to take, for example, a bottle of water, right? And he's drinking the water, but while he's drinking the water, he is imagining that he has some wine. That this water becomes what? Haram. So the ulama say, likewise, a man should not be intimate with his wife while he is imagining it's someone else. The man should not be intimate with his wife and he's thinking about, this is the woman I just saw in Walmart, while he's with his wife. He said, if the man does this, he says that the scholars, some of them have mentioned that this becomes haram for him. And some have even said that this is like committing zina. So this is a statement of the madhab of the Maliki and the Hanbali and Shafi'i. So that many of them consider this to be zina. And likewise, the woman should not imagine that she is intimate with someone other than her husband. So the 12th man was who? It was a man who goes to his wife without any muqaddimat, without any foreplay, right? Man number 13. This is the man who returns from travel and he surprises his family without letting them know he is returning home. He says, and this is because the woman, the wife, will not be pleased with this, but rather she wants for the man to let her know that she is coming home so he will not see her in a bad state. Said the woman wants to be able to fix herself up before her husband arrives home. Because she does not want him to see her when she's not fixed up for him. And then he mentions the hadith, إِذَا قَدِمَ أَحَدَكُمْ لَيْلًا. If one of you arrives home at night, then let him not go to his family, meaning surprising her until she is able to remove her hair from her body and comb her hair. You let the woman, she has to remove some body hair and fix up her hair. So the man should let his wife know that he is coming home and he should not surprise her from travel. So man number 13 is who? The man who surprises his wife when he comes back from travel. Man number 14. Man number 14. This is the man And the wife, when the man's at work, when the man's at the masjid, the wife wants to surprise the husband. So she is beautifying herself and trying to fix herself up for him. And she beautifies herself not to go out in the street, but so when they're all alone, she's going to look nice for him. So she'll be a coolness for his eyes, something good to see. So she puts on, he says, malabis an-nawm, like negligee. She puts on some nice, negligee for the man. He says, and she may even put on some makeup for the man. He says, and the man, but she is shocked to find out that when she's put on this nice nightgown, makeup, she fixed herself up, waiting for the man to come home so he can be impressed by how good she looks. She's surprised that when the man, he rebuffs how she looks and he says to her, "You look like a prostitute." She fixed herself up and all he can say is, "You look like a prostitute." He says, "Rather, it is upon you, O noble brother, that you make your wife feel like she's attractive and you enjoy her." He said, and you should enjoy your righteous wife, the one who is trying to make you happy. So you do not have to look at that which is haram. Enjoy how your wife has fixed herself up so you don't have to look at that which is haram. He says, and the women of the Salaf, they would fix themselves up for their husbands. The women of the Salaf, he said, rather even the wives of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, they will fix themselves up. He says, and an example is our mother Aisha, radhiyallahu anha, as-Siddiqah, the daughter of as-Siddiq, that she would fix herself up. And he said, and she narrates her own story. She said, Dakhala alayya Rasulullah. He says that the Messenger of Allah salam, he entered upon me, and he saw in my hands 2 rings of silver. And he said, Ma hadha ya Aisha. He said, what do you have with you, Aisha? And she said, I made 2 garments to beautify myself for you, O Messenger of Allah. You see this? Our mother used to fix herself up for the Messenger of Allah salam. Now, the Sheikh makes another point from this hadith. Because sometimes, ya akhwan, your wife may fix herself up, but she may do it with something that's not permissible, right? She may put on some fake eyelashes. She may, put some fake hair in or do something that's not permissible. But still, there's a manner that you can correct her without crushing her, right? Your wife comes in and has some, say, that's haram. But there's a way. He said, because in this narration, the Messenger of Allah salam, he asked her, now have you paid zakat on these rings? And she said, no. He said, now this is sufficient to cause you to enter the hellfire. He just let her know. He didn't crush her, but just let her know. Now these rings have to have zakat paid on them. So there's a way that the man can correct his wife if she is, beautifying herself in a way that's not permissible. Okay? So man number, 14 is who? The man who just crushes his wife's advances. The man who, the man who, he rebuffs his wife trying to fix herself up for him. Now, man number 15. This is the man who is so accommodating to his wife that he becomes spineless. The man that's so nice and so accommodating that it goes to the extreme that he becomes a spineless man. He says this is the man, he is spineless in his home and with his wife. So he just gives her free rein. Says, and she's the one who's running him. So he's like a tool and he has no say so. He says, and he loses the authority which Allah Ta'ala has given him. And he just lets the rein go. He says, so his wife, she becomes the one who commands the good and forbids the evil in the home. She's the one who tells the kids what to do, and she's the one that tells the husband what to do. He says, and when this happens, how do you think the family is going to be? He says, there's no doubt that in most cases, the family is going to be destroyed. He says, and how does the family get destroyed? When this man becomes so accommodating that he becomes spineless, then one day he tries to get the power back. He wants to get his authority back. He says, and this woman, now she's upset because she's been in charge this whole time, and now he wants to get his throne back. He says, and she was happy having a weak man. Says, so she's not going to give up that authority easy. She's not going to go easy because she was happy having a weak man. He says, and this man who gave up his authority to the wife, the woman who is weaker than him in wisdom, and she is weaker than him in making decisions at the time of anger and emotion. He says, and this is in most cases, he says, because you have some women and they have more wisdom than 10 men. But in most cases, you'll find that the man has more wisdom during the time of anger and emotion. And he said, now, don't understand from us speaking about the spineless man, don't understand from this that we are encouraging brothers to be rough and hard and have bad manners. He said, you don't have to go to this extreme or that extreme, but you can be in the middle. You don't have to be spineless, but you don't have to be a brute either, but you can be right down the middle. He said, so don't be so spineless that your wife runs you, and don't be so harsh that you break her, but rather be in the middle. Man number 15 was who? Spineless brother. Man number 16. Now, man number 15 was the man who is spineless, so his wife takes his authority. Man number 16 is the man who he gives authority up. He's not spineless, but there's an ulterior motive. He just gives his wife the authority of the house. He says, so she is the one who runs the household and who checks up on the kids, male and female, and how they're doing in school. If the father doesn't check on how the kids are doing in school, she's the one that runs the house, and she's the one who goes speaks with the teachers to see how the kids are doing in school. And she is the one who takes herself around town for her needs. He says, and I don't say she takes herself around town for things that she wants to do, but rather she takes herself around town for things that she needs to do. He says this type of man doesn't even take his wife to the hospital or to visit her family. He said rather he just stays in the home. This is that couch potato brother. He stays in the home and lets his wife go back and forth and take herself around town for anything that she needs to do. He says he doesn't want to be responsible. This is the irresponsible brother. He doesn't want to be in charge of the house. And why is that, Yahwan? There's a reason for this. He wants for his wife to go ahead and go outside so he can do what he got to do in the house. He wants to be able to do his evil without worrying about his wife. So he's saying to his wife without saying it, don't worry me about what I do, and I'm not going to worry about what you do. You can go wherever you want to go. You can stay out however late you want to stay out. I'm not going to ask you because I'm doing what I'm doing. He says he wants her to leave the home so he can take care of what he wants to do. He says, so he leaves his wife to go outside without him and take care of his needs. He says, and when he does that, she's going to encounter men in the store, men in the marketplace, men who do business. She's going to have to interact with men in the hospital, men in the schools. She's going to have to ride around in taxis with men. So now he exposes his wife to the traps of the shaitan. He says he's going to expose his weak wife to these evil men that have no manners. And he's going to make his wife easy prey for evil men. And his wife becomes up for grabs for these lowly men. And the reason is because this man wants to do his evil desires in the home when his wife is outside. And he doesn't want his wife looking at what he's doing. He says, and at the same time, when some of the sisters see that this husband, this irresponsible man, has given her free reign to do what she wants to do, what do you think they do? He said they congratulate her. They congratulate her like she's got it good because she has freedom. He says, and they do not know that this woman has been made low, has been oppressed by having a ghost of a husband. So man number 15 was that 15 or 16? Man number 16 was who? The irresponsible brother. The brother who does not want to be responsible. Man number 17, ya akhwan. This is the man who threatens his wife. Now I'm going to ask y'all a question. What do you think he threatens her with? Two things, huh? Divorce. He threatens his wife with divorce. And what else? Ahsantum. And I'm going to take a second. He threatens her with, I'm going to divorce you or I'm going to take a second wife. If you do this or that, I'm going to divorce you or I'm going to take another wife. He says, I say, my brother, Allah Ta'ala has placed divorce in the hand of the man because you are the one that has the intellect at the time of anger and emotion, and you are the one who establishes the home. He says, so don't use divorce as a weapon to belittle your wife. Even if you desire by that you're trying to discipline her, right? Don't use divorce as a threat, even if you have the intention that you're only trying to discipline her. He says this is not befitting for you to do so. He says because a woman has nobility and status in Islam and in the community. He says, and know that divorce is nothing to play with. And then he mentioned the hadith of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. They said, Thalatha, jidduhunna, jiddun. He said there are three things that when you are serious, they're serious. And when you are playing, they're still serious. Three things that if the person is serious about them, they're serious. And if the person is joking about them, they're what? They're still serious. And they are what? Marriage, divorce, and what? Taking the wife back. There is no playing in these. And then listen to what the Sheikh says, Jaquan, about the man who threatens his wife with divorce. He said, then know there is no good in a woman who the only way she's going to be upright is if you threaten her. There's no good in the woman. The only way you can get this woman to do right is by threatening her. She's not good anyway. You have to threaten her or beat her to get her to do right. She's not good anyway. Then he goes on to the other threat, which is what? Threaten to take a second wife. He said, brother, if you want to take another wife, don't play with your wife's nerves. He said, don't make an excuse for taking another wife. He said, don't make an excuse by saying your first wife has bad manners, so now you want to take a second wife. He said, this is being weak and spineless, that you have to make an excuse to get another wife. He said, Allah Ta'ala has made it easy for you. He's made it permissible for you to have 2, 3, or 4. So why are you trying to make an excuse to do something that your Lord has made permissible for you? You're trying to make an excuse by saying your wife is not a good wife. And Allah Ta'ala didn't make it hard for you. He's already said you can do it anyway. He said, and why are you going to accuse your wife of something that she is free from? Meaning you're going to accuse her of being an evil person just so you can get another wife. He says, and if your wife does have some bad character traits, then it's not befitting that you expose this anyway. Rather, you should try to fix her bad traits. He says, and what we have today is something that's called zawaj misyar. Anyone know what this is? Who's giving up the rights? The wife is giving it up. This is when the wife gives up some of her rights so she can marry the man. Meaning she may say, okay, you can marry me and you don't have to provide me with a home or any maintenance. Right? He said, so now this is something now which is prevalent. He said, and this has become a game. Zawaj misyar. He says this has become a game in the hands of some of the men. Naam, he said, and this is so the men can follow their desires. He said, and they don't look at the evil results of this. He said, but they only want to vent and satisfy their cravings. He says, and most of the time when a man does this marriage, and this marriage is again, ya akhwan, zawaj misyar, when the woman gives up her rights, right? The woman wants to get married, and so she gives up her rights to marry the man. He said, most of the time the man does this and he's going to marry in secret. He says, and so you'll find a man in 1 month, he's going to marry and divorce over and over in 1 month. Marry and divorce. Nobody knows it but him and a woman. He says, and he does this because he's not responsible for anything. Right? You can just marry the woman, you don't have to pay no bills. He says, and another reason that he does this, he said, because this man who wants to take a second wife, he doesn't have the ability to get a second home. He says, is this the correct solution for problems inside the home? And you find, ya akhwan, that we find brothers, and we always say women don't like polygamy. It's the Sunnah. And a man wants to get 2 wives and put them in the same home. Say, is this the Sunnah? And he doesn't want to pay any bills. And many times they look for women that already have Section 8. And some of the brothers that tell the wife, well, I don't have to pay the bills because the government is paying them for me. It's the Sunnah. And they say women don't like polygamy. Are you going to say this is what your Lord has sent down, this kind of polygamy? And we blame the woman. And because there's a man shortage, women are quick to marry men and let him off the hook for everything. Doesn't have to pay any bills, anything. He just comes there, sleeps there, eats, and leaves. And then he wants to have some authority in the home. Women have to be more picky, ya akhwan. He says, so have taqwa of Allah Ta'ala and preserve your lineage. Meaning these men that go around, they drop kids from here to here. And this is a footnote, ya akhwan. The woman, ya akhwan, we say this all the time. If you find a man and he is not taking care of his own children, why do you think he's going to take care of your children? Man got kids all over the country. Ain't seen them in years. Ain't bought a pair of shoes. And you going to marry this brother? So man number 17 is the who? The threatening brother. Man number 18. This is the man that when he takes a second wife, he makes life hard on the first wife. He says, and I don't know, maybe he's doing this so the first wife can flee from him. Or she can give up some of her nights. So here, ya akhwan, the Sheikh, he mentions 3 reasons that men, when they take a second wife, they make life hard on the first wife. When men take a second wife, they make life hard on the first wife. He said one reason is so she can leave him, meaning she asked for khula. The second reason, she can give up some of her nights. And the third reason, so he can go to the community and say, she can deal with polygamy. She left. So he can make an excuse in front of the community and make it seem like the problem was on her. He says, and many times, the poor woman, she'll just stay with him because she want to be close to her kids, although the man is mistreating her. He says, so my advice is for the brothers to have taqwa of Allah Ta'ala and know that Allah Ta'ala has made zulm, oppression, haram upon himself. And he has made it between us haram. And Sheikh Sulaiman al-Ruhaili, he mentions this point, Ya Ikhwan, in his book, The Rights of the Spouses, how it's not permissible for the man to treat his wife bad, so she'll ask for khula. Right? We find brothers do this. And why does a brother want her to get a khula? When he can just, if he doesn't like her, he can just divorce her. Why do you want to get a khula, Ya Ikhwan? He don't want to pay. Doesn't want to pay the iddah period. 3 months iddah period, 3 months of her staying in the house. Because many times, if you want to get a second wife, he can't afford a second house, so he want to use that same house. So you got to hurry up and get her out of here. Hurry up and make her leave so he can get the other one in there. Revolving door. And he doesn't want to pay the 3 months for the iddah period. Ask for a khula. And then some of the brothers, another reason that they want to get the khula is why? Get that mahar back. Use the same mahar 5 times. Give me this mahar back. I'm going to give it to you. And this is why, Ya Ikhwan, we advise the woman before you get married, come to the masjid so the masjid can check those brothers out. When you marry on the internet, random brothers, you don't know who you're marrying. And many times women co-sign brothers. Oh, he's a good brother. How do you know? Have you traveled with this strange man? You done business with him? You don't know this brother? Good brother. Let the men tell you. We can tell you how many times he comes to the masjid, how many times he's been married, how many times he played with women. Let them come and ask the men who know him if he's a good brother or not. So man number 18 is who? The man who takes a second wife and treats his first wife bad. Man number 19. This is the man who lets his friends run his home. The man who lets his friends run his home. He says, so this man will go to his friends and he'll make them like a treasure chest, like a how you call that? Sanadiq. He'll make them like a storage for his secrets. So he'll give them all of his secrets of his home. It says nothing small or big happens in his home except he runs and tells his friends. He says, and then he'll ask his friends for some type of solution for what's going on in his home. He says, and this man runs to his friends so much that his children have to intercede with his friends to talk to him. His children have to go to his friends in order to deal with him. He says, and some men, they get their sisters involved in their home, right? Some men, they get their biological sisters involved in their home. And so they tell them everything. He says, and by way of this, his wife becomes belittled because his sisters run his home. He says, brothers, you have to protect your honor and the honor of your family and your children. He says, and you should seek solutions from people who have knowledge and good insight, not just all your friends. He says, and do not expose the secrets of your home to anyone, right? You keep your secrets inside the home. So man number 19 is who? Man let his friends run his home. Man number 20, Ya Ikhwan, this is the last one. And this is kind of similar to a previous one, but it's a little different. This is the man who gives his wives and daughter free reign to do whatever they want to do. He says they leave the home meta sha'u, whenever they want to. They leave the home however they want to. And they leave the home with whomever they want to. And he does not watch them or follow up on them at all. He says, so his wives and daughters can do whatever they want to do. He said they leave the home uncovered, wearing perfume, wearing smell good, cologne or nam. He said, and they can stay out however late they want to midnight or up until Fajr time. He says, and he'll say, well, they're with their cousins. They're with their friends. And so the man does not ask about anything that they do. He says, and he'll do this because he said, I'm trying to keep the, family intact, by letting them do whatever they want to do. He says, and he does not say to them, where are you going? He does not say to them, why are you wearing this short clothing? Why are you wearing this clothing that exposes you? Where were you at? Who are you riding with? And he said, and some men use an excuse. They say, what do you think some men say, Yahweh? I trust my wife. I trust my daughters. He said, this is not the issue. We're not trying to accuse anybody's wives or daughters of doing anything. He said, but the man is obligatory upon you to follow up and check and make sure your family is doing everything which is correct. He says, and where is the jealousy? Where is the jealousy that Allah Ta'ala has made natural inside the man? He said there's a hadith al-Hurraira from Sa'ad ibn Ubadah. He said, لو رأيت رجلا مع امرأتي لضربته بالسيف غير مصفح. He said, if I saw a man with my wife, I would hit him with my sword, and I don't mean the flat part of it. I don't mean the flat, but you mean I hit him with the sharp edge. And so this was mentioned to the Messenger of Allah Islam. And people were surprised. This man jealous. He said, Ata'jabuna. He said, are you amazed at the jealousy of Sa'd? He said, for wallahi, I'm more jealous than him. He said, and Allah Ta'ala is more jealous than me. And due to the jealousy of Allah Ta'ala, he has prohibited fawahish. He has prohibited lewdness, that which is apparent and that which is hidden. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim, hadith 1499. He hit the man with a sword, Yahweh. He said, and from lewdness is that the man lets his wife go outside wearing short clothing, or clothing that is see-through, or clothing that the front is open, or the back or sides are open. Says, and they say, well, we're just doing this. This is the fashion. The excuse is this is the new style. He says, fear Allah Ta'ala. He said, as the Messenger of Allah Islam, he said, Ala kullukum ra'in, that all of you are shepherds, and everyone shall be questioned about his flock. And the man is a shepherd in his home, Yahweh. And we're going to be questioned about our families. And then the Sheikh Yahweh, Sheikh Jamal al-Harithi, may Allah Ta'ala preserve him. He says, now I'm about to say something that some people are not going to like. He said, I'm going to say something that some people are not going to like. He said, but remember, I said in the beginning of this talk that I'm speaking in a way that the people can understand. And I'm trying to speak in a way that is going to reach you. He said, I say that if I were to go to the butcher and I would find two pieces of meat hanging up. One piece of meat was uncovered and had flies flying all around it. And the other piece of meat was covered up and preserved. Which one do you think you would buy? He said, I'm going to leave that question for the man that let the wives go out uncovered. We're not going to answer that question. If you let your wife go out uncovered, you answer that question. He said, and we close by saying, there is no one who is ma'soom, there's no one who is free from error except for the prophets. Alayhimus salam. He said, so all of us may find a couple of these traits in us. You may find at least 2, 3, 4, at least one of these 20 inside of us. Naam. He said, and there's, none of us who is really able to rectify himself all by himself. He said, so is a must that we help each other out. That if we see our brother with some faults and deficiencies, that we help him out. And then he mentioned in the narration that the believer is a mirror for his brother. Naam, so we should help each other out and advise one another. He said, and whoever finds, and listen to what he said, Yaqwan. He said, whoever finds these traits in himself, then let him praise Allah. If you find these traits in yourself, then praise Allah Ta'ala for giving you tawfiq to recognize your errors. He said, and be diligent in trying to remove this from yourself. As Umar ibn Khattab, he said, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon the one who guides me to my faults. He says, and it's upon the man to take the advice of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when he said, I advise you, and this advice, Shaikhwan, is not optional. Said, advise you, meaning I command you to be good to the woman. Because verily she was created from the bent rib, and the top portion of the rib is the most crooked part of it. And if the man begins to try to make it, completely straighten it out, then he is going to break it. And if he leaves it alone, then it shall remain crooked. So I advise you to be good to the woman. And then lastly, as a footnote, Yaqwan, he signed this, Jamal al-Harithi. He signed his name. And this is the point, Yaqwan. If you just read the books in the English, you find that it's the translator of the publisher that put out al-Allama, al-Sheikh. The scholars, they signed their name. Salih Fawzan. That's how he signs his book. Rabi' Madkhali. Just put his first and last name. That's it. And then the translator comes back and puts the title just so that people know the status of the person that's writing the book. But the scholars, Yaqwan, this is their, they're just humble. They just write the name on the book and that's it. Naam. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Barakallahu feekum.